Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. Today, we are here to discuss a book haul. We're going to do a book haul for a change. It took a little bit of time to put this episode together, and I think it's always good, to be honest. It took me a little bit of time to get around to recording this episode today because I'm not feeling too great. You know, the usual stuff, just general pits of despair. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, just one of those days. But we're here, we're going to do it, we're going to push forward, we're going to just do it. So if it's a little bit more low energy, if it's a little bit quieter, if it's a little less subdued than, a little bit more subdued, than usual, that's why. But I didn't want to not do an episode for our second episode of the year, and whilst there was no news per se, I thought we'll do the book haul. And so it took me a little bit of time to decide, do I want to do this? Do I want to think? I know you guys are seeing this, and it doesn't really matter to you guys because the upload's still there at the time that you did it. But I think sometimes it's good to be honest and good to be real about where you are as a person. Alongside, you guys are watching this for my opinions. You want to know about me too, I think. So that's a little bit of an honest sort of opener, a little bit of an honest situation where we are. And I have also put these books in the wrong order. So we are gonna have a look through some books today and do a book haul. Now, this is a little bit of a select book haul. It's not actually the books I've got most recently, but it is the books that I've been most hooked on recently. And there's a few others as well. So I'm actually going to start by going through what audiobooks I've been reading. So I don't remember if the last time we did one of these, I was discussing what audiobooks I was listening to at the given time. But I'd stopped audiobooks for a long time because my commute to work is very short now. It's like 13 minutes. So it's not enough time to even get through a chapter of an audiobook most of the time. So I don't usually really bother anymore. But I've been on Glass Abyss, which is a Star Wars book about Mace Windu and him dealing with the criminal underworld on Zaxxis, I think it's called. No, where is that the name of the planet? That's the city either way. New Zaxxis. And that is it's an interesting book. It starts out strong, and I think it gives you a lot more not intrigue, but insight. That's the word I'm looking for. Into Mace's character, but the book starts to repeat itself. What I mean by that is there's this you've got Mace, you've got Chulok, you've got the this other Chulok, which is a leader of a criminal syndicate, and then you've got Sybil, who's the leader of another one, and you've got some other players that are also involved. But it's kind of just a back and forth between those three sides of the conflict pretty much throughout. And it feels like there's a lot of stuff where I feel like the book could have had 10, maybe even 15 chapters cut off and still have reached the same endpoint. I feel like it sort of meandered in the middle section a little bit too much. And I get that it was to sort of build a few of the characters, and I think they did that. And I think they gave Mace an arc that was a little bit more interesting from the side of seeing his spirituality a little bit more and seeing his background in terms of why he is how he is sometimes a little bit more. That was great. But it did it at a very slow pace. And I don't know whether that was partly because I was struggling to get through the book, so then I stopped and then started again, or whether it was the actual book. But I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I think it's a worthwhile read if you're a Mace Windu fan, or a listener in my case, but I didn't love it. So that's Mace Windu. Well, that's Star Wars: The Glass Abyss about Mace Windu. Finally got it done. Finally finished it, and I'm starting now the Bad Batch novel they released a little while back, which is called Sanctuary, and I've only listened to the first chapter so far, and I'm unsure about this one because it takes place between sort of season 2 and 3. But I think, but it sits at a point, I think it actually takes place before the end of season 2, somewhere in the middle of season 2. And it sits at a point for me, and this is what frustrates me, is that I kind of know what's going to happen to these characters. So in this one, I don't know if there's going to be any dramatic tension necessarily. And I know that's the case of a lot of Star Wars books, but I feel like because it's so in the middle of so many other stuff, it's right between episodes, basically. I'm unsure whether I'm going to love it. But it's narrated by Mark Thompson, who's the best narrator for Star Wars books. If you ever see Mark Thompson narrating a book, even if the book is going to be subpar, Mark Thompson's narration of it is going to be great. He really manages to kind of give you a broad spectrum of character within the way he does voices for those characters. And like any book that has Mark Thompson, I'm like, yes! He did a really good job with the Thrawn trilogy, for example, if you guys want a little recommendation there from me. But yeah, so very excited to see how that one goes. Now, we're going to go on to the big kind of project I'm doing at the moment. And shout out to Faustus, who is a kind of member of the community. And they gave me a list of like Halo books. So I don't know if you guys know, you maybe don't. But over on my gaming channel, I've been playing all the Halo games for the first time ever. I haven't played them before. So I've now played 1, 2, 3, ODST, Reach, Halo Wars, and 4. That's where I'm at in the timeline. And so I've been reading the books as I've been going, which is hilarious because there's actually more content, more hours being used on the books than the actual playing of the games. But I have listened to, because I did listen to, Fall of Reach. I missed out the Flood book because it is essentially a retelling of the first game. I didn't feel like I needed that. So I read the Flood book. The Fall of Reach and First Strike, not the Flood, which is like the first trilogy. Then I've read Ghosts of Onyx. There. I then went on to Contact Harvest and the Cole Protocol, as well as the it's sort of a what's it called? It's like a collection of short stories. I don't know what you would call that again. I forget the word, but like an not omnibus. That's the wrong word as well. But evolutions there as well. So and then finally, which I've just finished today as of recording, Cryptum, which is the first of the Forerunner trilogy. Oh, and sorry, I missed out the Cole Protocol as well, I think. Anyway, so dotting around all in the timeline there, because, you know, Contact Harvest and the Cole Protocol, that one's obviously the beginning of the war with the Covenant. And then you have the Cole Protocol, which is set 10 years into that conflict. Then you have the original 3 books. What I've just said before, sorry, I'm losing my brain. I'm losing my brain power. Which was still can't get it. Fall of Reach, The Flood, and First Strike, and then Ghosts of Onyx is like book 4, which is sort of more of like, it does connect, but it's sort of more of an addendum piece. It's still good, but yeah. And then Cryptum, which of course is like way in the past, like way in the past. And then Evolutions, which is all over the place. I'm still going through Evolutions. All of the rest of the ones you've seen here have been read. I'm taking Evolutions slowly, mainly because I've enjoyed all the other books. There's parts of them that I don't love, and we can kind of go into that a little bit more in a second. But I didn't love some of the stories in Evolutions so far, just because they felt a little bit slow, or like not worthwhile, but not really worthwhile to the overall narrative. And I guess that's the point of like an anthology. Anthology, that's the word, of like short stories. I get that. It's sort of similar to the games, how like for me personally, if I'm not playing a Spartan, I'm not as interested. Like ODST wasn't as fun for me as, you know, the others. And even then I prefer, I kind of more enjoy it when I'm playing as Master Chief himself. But doesn't mean I don't enjoy the rest. It's just I don't enjoy it as much. Now, let's talk about the books in general. So first up, Fall of Reach. Really enjoyed that as a book. I thought it really contextualized the first game. Frustrated me a little bit when I actually got to play Halo Reach, because then I realized that the timeline kind of changed a little bit to like suit like a new game, and I get why. I understand why, because the way it was sort of in the books didn't give you any scope to add any characters in, because a lot of the Spartans who were there on the planet are accounted for pretty swiftly in the book itself. But I personally would have just made a game around those characters if it was me. But I get why they didn't, especially knowing that they used those characters later on in the franchise in a game. Anyway, that's beyond the point. So the other thing was I'm reading the older editions. So the older editions don't account for the fact that some of the Covenant species have been well known for a long while, and so like you're getting in these books some of the first times that John and the Spartans are encountering like the Hunters and the Sangheli or elites, and obviously the brutes in First Strike as well. But I took that with a grain of salt because I kind of knew that wasn't the case going into the books. I think it's a thing where, like, depending on the copy that you can pick up, you kind of have to just take some of those things with a pinch of salt, because like the overarching narrative of the book happens, but like certain like background lore pieces might change. Like it's more descriptors of what's happening in the book rather than the actions or events that are happening in those sections, if that makes sense. So I think in that way, I really enjoyed the first two books. And what I really liked, and again with Ghost of Onyx as well, is Eric Nyland's writing style. I think Eric, what's actually really interesting, and I think it's really helped me think about how I would like to write again when I get back around to it for the infinite times that I say that, is that Eric Nyland writes in a very matter-of-fact way. Everything's statement. There's not much in terms. There's a conservation of words. There's not much wasted on like. And I think it's because he's dealing with Spartans who are very notoriously quiet characters in general. But there's not much. There's an economy of words, and it's like quick to the point. And it's like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Even just stuff like how the chapters start with like the little like 11:35 hours, July 3rd, 25:45, military calendar, 51 Pegasi B system target area. Like, you just know where you are down to like the minute detail, but it is still conservative with those details because it tells you like that, so it doesn't have to take the chapter telling you exactly where they are. I really enjoyed these books. I think they're really good. And yeah, I think if it had been more wordy, jumping around a little bit here, Cryptum's very wordy, and I get why, because you're dealing with Forerunner characters who are meant to be like higher evolved than us as people. Like, they're very like, they've got a lot of technology that we don't know or get, or all that type of stuff. And also they're dealing with higher concept things because this is talking about the whole fate of the galaxy. And I understand that the Halo games are sort of dealing with that too, but they deal with that in relation to humanity, not in relation to everything. And this book's doing that. So there's a lot more like sort of not purple prose necessarily, but like, let's call it lilac prose. It sort of borders on it. It sort of borders on that magenta prose. But I did enjoy it still. I think the opening, the idea of, and the initial sort of implication that humans have been around for a long time is a very interesting concept, that the humans have gone so far as to regress, that to get to space and then regress, sort of how you see how the Jiralhanae are, the brutes are in the more current Halo timeline, is really interesting. And more than that, it reminds me a little bit of Horizon, the video game franchise, Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, in the idea that like humanity is starting again because it didn't go right the first time around. Very interesting stuff, and it's interesting to kind of go into the firmament of the Halo universe, so to speak. But still missing John a little bit, still missing Master Chief. But yeah, so those that's sort of my commentary on those. Now, Core Protocol and Contact Harvest, these books are sort of in the same league for me. And what I mean by that is, when there's a character I know from the games in the chapter, very interesting. Sergeant Johnson is a really interesting character to learn more about, and learning about like his past on Earth, and like with his aunt or auntie, I forget how he calls her in the book, but dealing with that was really interesting, and seeing him sort of come to terms with fighting another war and dealing with the fact that he could now be something more of a hero, he could reinvent himself with this new war, was a really interesting concept. And Core Protocol, seeing more of Keyes and seeing how Keyes is this uncompromising leader when it comes to it. In the past, you've seen him in the other books sort of be the lackey to Halsey or to his commander-in-chief. Not commander-in-chief, but his commanders, sorry. In this one, he makes the gambits himself. He's in charge, and it's really interesting to see how that pays off for him, and you see him becoming a lot more the character that he is in the games in this one. yeah, really like that. I struggle with some of the characters that they put next to these characters in these books, just because I feel, I don't know. I struggle, and it's a thing that I struggle with across media, and it's actually sort of links maybe back to the Glass Abyss a little bit from Star Wars. Is if it's media regarding a gaming universe or a movie universe or whatever, if it doesn't have enough of the elements of that original universe, then I'm sort of not as invested because I know it's not going to come back around. Not saying that I didn't enjoy these stories, but I think for me, knowing that we probably never go to harvest, or knowing that the rubble is sort of already destroyed by the end of the Cole Protocol, means that I don't have emphasis on those places. I think that's why the Fall of Reach as a book is really strong, because you then go and play on Reach. And yes, it's, you know, the story contradicts it slightly, but like you then go through those events, and those events matter because you know they're kind of happening at the same time. And I'm not saying that every fiction has to be like that. I think it's just because it's sort of meant to be interconnected, right? These are meant to be canon. I think Star Wars gets away with it because Star Wars has so many places that are pivotal to like the movies, the shows, etc. But because Halo's a lot smaller of a scope regards to the games, I'm like, okay, well, if you think about it, really, across the games, John has been to like a few planets. Like really, in terms of the actual games, yes, he's been on many more planets in terms of his actual service record in the universe. But like in the games, we've seen him mostly on some sort of cybernetic installation or other, right? Not many planets that you've been to. It's like if you look at something like Mass Effect, for example, totally different thing. But I'm going too far into the gaming side here, so I'm going to try and reel it back in a second. But if you go and look at Mass Effect, every world you're going to has a culture, has people, you don't really get that in Halo. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I think Halo is more about the fight, and you're meant to be cut off from civilization, because civilization then, you're meant to be fighting for something that you don't get to see. And I kind of get that that's the point of Halo. But for me, what that means in my head is I'm not connected to the populations of these planets. But you go into something like Mass Effect, you go onto a planet and you're seeing the people and you're dealing with the people, and you have the consequences of your actions are upon those people. That's where a book might be more interesting, because you get to see how those people survive that scenario, or they continue on, or they actually, in fact, how they lived before that moment that you meet them. And so that's interesting, right? I did find it interesting when I found out that the Jenkins in this book is the Jenkins that you meet in Halo 1. That impacted me a lot. That was interesting. But yeah, I think because Halo is so... It feels like despite the books being canon and despite the books being part of the universe and me really enjoying these books, they don't have too much bearing on the actual game currently, as I feel. You know, like I feel like I could play all the games. Actually, that's a little bit of what I would say with Cryptum so far. Now, to be fair, Cryptum, I have to give it its due. It's the first part of a trilogy. So, but it doesn't feel like it connects that much to the Didact that I saw in Halo 4. Now, that might change in the next two books. But yeah, it's kind of that thing where there's that smallest disconnect that kind of takes you out of the illusion of the book. I think that's my thing. And Evolutions, as I said earlier on, it's one where, because it's a lot of side characters and side scenarios, and some of them aren't even like necessarily stuff that's sort of big. And again, that's not a bad thing. I think, you know, fiction can be small, can be big, can be anything. It doesn't have to be big to be poignant or matter. But I think because they're not dealing like if this book had gone the way of, for example, a great anthology, in my opinion, is the Certain Point of View ones that they did for the Star Wars movies for the 40 years of New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I really enjoyed those because what they do is they kind of track the movie and take a lesser known character or sort of adjacent character to those events and show you what happens there. And that was really interesting because it sort of pads out the movie. You can almost read that book, then watch the movie and say, that's happening then. And that's what I kind of think is very strong for a connected franchise. I think you want to answer questions in books like these. It's totally a separate type of thing to fiction that is separate from the universe that it's based in, if that makes sense. Or even if the fiction came first, like The Witcher, the fiction stands on its own because the fiction doesn't need to reference stuff from the games and connect to the games because it happens years before, and even still, the books were first. It's a totally different thing. So, like, to me, I think that's the one thing that I frustrates me a lot when I read through, and in general, it frustrates me with like any sort of franchise. If like the books I'm reading don't seem to matter to the actual main media of that universe, it's a frustration. It's why I don't really read tie-ins to like for example, the Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman. I had a novel that came out with it, and I was sort of tempted because I really enjoyed the movie, but then I realized it's probably not going to be referenced much, if at all, in the actual movie. And even if it is, it's going to feel trite. It's not going to feel like it was actually intended for it to link up and be part of the same thing. So that's something I struggle with when it's a tie-in stuff. Because it doesn't ever feel quite right. It doesn't feel like the narrative enhances one another. It feels like one's leading after the other, in not a fun way. And then a little bit of something different now that we've gone over Halo, and I just got this the other day. I've been playing D&D a lot more recently. As you guys have seen, we've done a little bit of a foray into TTRPG on this channel with the Marvel Multiverse episode, the first episode of our Witches Road campaign. That will be coming back, by the way. There's more of that to come. And what I've been playing is D&D as well as that. I've been playing in a group that streams it over on another channel, Yorkshire Bothers channel, if you guys want to check that out. And then also I have joined a group that is totally offline, but still some of the same friends, some of the same streamers, etc. And I buy a lot of D&D stuff anyway because I just I don't know, there's something kind of fun about a source book. Anyway, I got this, which is Collaborative Campaign Design, the Game Master's Handbook. And I know it sounds stupid, I love the size of this. I love a handbook size. It's something that you don't get with D&D books and stuff like that, really. It's always usually big ass, freaking huge. I usually don't swear on this channel, sorry for that. Big ass, I did it again. Books, like A4 sort of size. But this is interesting. So the most enjoyable part of any TTRPG is the time you spend interacting with friends. In a traditional TTRPG, the game master builds a campaign by stringing together a number of standalone adventures. Managing all these adventures and using them to build a campaign requires a lot of work on the game master's part, with little input from the players. In fact, more often than not, players are encouraged to approach each adventure as a series of problem-solving episodes rather than a truly collaborative world-building experience. Most gaming groups grow tired of this repetitive, restrictive style of gameplay and move on to new adventures, characters, or TTRPGs before the campaign reaches its intended climax. This book changes all that. With a process called Emergent Campaign Design, GMs and their player plot out the cultures, geographies, factions, pantheons, and other world-building elements together. GMs invite the players to be empowered partners in the creation and development of the world and all the narratives that spring from it, with player goals, not GM plans, driving the action. The proactive nature of the players being in charge of the narrative improves everyone's level of engagement, keeping them hooked until the campaign builds to a natural, impactful climax, resolving external conflicts as well as internal struggles. It's a whole new way to play, one that will revolutionize your TTRPG experience for the better. So this book includes a complete Session 1 collaborative world-building system, guidelines for establishing goals, factions, and role-playing experiences with your friends, not for them, lists and random tables to inspire and supplement your campaign-building efforts, and much more. I haven't had a chance to read it fully yet, but what I love is, I'll show you guys, there's loads of notes, loads of little asides, and like tables, and there's like drawings as well. It's like a really cool little book that sort of just tries to give you ideas on how to better formulate a world. And I think what I love about D&D world building, or generally world building, is that it's such like an open, you can do anything, right? And that's what I think this is trying to do to even the nth degree of like allowing you to kind of go further than that and make something with someone, with people. and expand beyond your own set of precognitions about what the world could be, but add someone else into that. So I'm really interested to get a read in that, and I actually kind of want to start maybe detailing stuff like that out, like get my own campaign world set up in case I ever do get around to doing D&D DMing myself. But yeah, that's sort of this episode. It's a little bit of a book haul one. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you guys like this. I always do. I always like doing a little bit of like a book haul one with you guys every so often. I haven't done one in the ages because I haven't read books in a while, but as you guys can see, I'm back on it now. So maybe more of these to come. Hopefully, potentially, we'll be back in short order. Maybe. Until next time, guys, thank you as always for watching and listening. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Don't know why I'm doing that with my head so much for those watching on YouTube. But anyway, bye, guys.